Now tuned in to the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day, to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing work, putting yourself out there even when the success you've expected to achieve is yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. That's the go-getter energy that moves me, you, him, and her to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. We put all this together in one bundle, one mindset, one method, one philosophy, one book, one show, one masterclass. It is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. Today's topic is how to reinvest in your business. Everyone understands by now, if you've been listening to the show for any amount of time at all, you understand that even if you don't own a business, even if you don't have a job, even if you are doing absolutely nothing in your life right now except listening to this masterclass, you're still in business. You're in the business of life because it costs money for you to be born. It will cost money for you to be buried, and it's going to cost you money in all the space in between. So every one of us needs to understand reinvesting in our business and the things that we need to do. There are three specific actions that I'm going to share with you here today about you reinvesting in your business in order for you to take your business to a higher level. Your business, again, could be your life. It could be your career. If you're an athlete, it could be your business. If you are running a business, it could be your career in anything else that you do. If you're a librarian, an author, a school teacher, you fix broken iPhone screens, whatever it is you do, you got to reinvest in your business in order to take that business to a higher level. Now, everyone here should be familiar with masterclass number 609, where I talk about the 5 forms of investment: time, money, energy, attention, and focus, and how they all work and how they differ from each other. So today what I'm going to be talking to you about is how you take those 5 forms of investment and actually apply them strategically, reinvest into whatever business you're in order to take yourself to the next level and the next level and next level after that. Because the assumption that I'm making in sharing what I'm sharing here today, my assumption is that you actually want to get better. All right? My assumption is not that you want to stay in the exact same spot. Because if you want to stay in the same spot, then you do not need to listen to this. You don't need to reinvest in your business. This is not aimed at you. But if you plan on getting better and moving forward and doing more than you're already doing, or achieving more, or helping more people, or producing more impact, producing more results, any of those things, you must reinvest in your business. This is a key area of importance whenever your goal is in any way to grow and evolve and not just tread water or not just go backwards. And I don't think anybody here wants to go backwards. You're going to have to keep putting more into, invest more into anything that you want to keep getting better. And this could be the business of your life. This could be any type of relationship. You have to reinvest in relationships, right? Your physical body, you got to reinvest in. Your career, your business, you have to reinvest in all of these things. Your appearance, your reputation, all of these things must be reinvested into in order for them to grow and improve and get better and evolve. When things just change in life, sometimes things will just change. Even though you love the way everything is right now and it's perfect, and you will love if it stayed this way, you know that it's not going to stay that way, because we know the only constant that we have in life is change, that things are never going to stay exactly the same as they've always been. And we talked about change a lot of times on the show, most recently masterclass number 1380, how to adapt to change quickly. So today let's get into 3 specific things that you need to reinvest in, and exactly how you need to do this, why you need to do it, and how you need to do it. Point number 1, today's topic once again, is how to reinvest in your business. Number 1 thing you got to reinvest in, and these are, I don't put these in any particular order, but you can. But I'm gonna tell you all 3. You got to be doing all 3. You don't want to come up short on any of these, because it's like having a 3-legged table or a 3-legged stool. If you're missing any one of these, then the other 2 aren't really going to work. And once you get all 3, and I've explained all 3, you'll understand exactly why that is. Number 1, relationships. You must reinvest into relationships in your business and in your life. What this means is very simply meeting new people, providing value to people, whether the people that you just met or the people that you already know, and staying connected to people. Once you meet someone, actually following up. How many times do you go to an event, meet a whole bunch of people, and you're exchanging business cards? And do people even do business cards anymore? business cards, phone numbers, Instagram accounts, emails, whatever it is, and a person tells you that they're going to follow up, person tells you, hey, let's keep in touch, let's meet up, let's do this, let's do that, and you never hear from that person again, you never see that person again. And listen, let's not just talk about other people. How many times have you done it? Told someone, hey, let's connect, let's stay in touch, let's do this, let's do that, and you never followed up with that person, you never called them, you never reached out to them, never did anything. All right, that is not a reinvestment in relationship. All right, so if you go to a networking event or a meetup or some event and you just meet a few people and you don't follow up with those people, you don't make any attempt to create some type of additional contact after the initial contact, then you are failing at reinvesting into relationships. So reinvesting is two things. First of all, with the people that you already know, staying in touch, providing them value, making sure you're knowing what they have going on, making sure they know what you have going on, because you never know when what you're doing could help somebody else or when what they're doing could help you. But if you don't know what somebody's been up to for the last 6 months, how would you know if you could help them? And how would they know if they could help you if you don't tell them what the new thing is that you just started 3 weeks ago? So you got to make sure people know what you're doing. You have to make sure they know what you're doing. You need to know what they're doing. Staying in touch so that when there's an opportunity, you can do things together. You can create a symbiotic relationships that benefits both you and the other party, whomever that other party may be. The great thing about the platforms of social media that we have these days is that you can find out a lot about what somebody has going on just by following them on social media, which is a great thing because it allows you like one-touch access to everybody's lives, at least the people who are willing to share everything they have going on in life on their social media accounts, and there are a lot of them, right? The thing is, since social media is so ubiquitous and since so many people have grown so comfortable in using social media, it's become a little bit commonplace for everyone to do all of their interactions through social media, which means if you want to separate yourself from all the other people who are reaching out to person X or person B, whoever they are that you want to reinvest in relationships with or build a relationship with, you might want to take it a step further than just using social media. Because let's say I'm a person, I'll use myself as an example. I'm a person, let's say I share what I have going on through my Facebook profile. I don't, but let's just say that I did, because there are a lot of people who do. And I get 20 messages from 20 different people who I've either met or I know in some way, and they're all reaching out to me, telling me how they could be involved or how they could help me or saying whatever it is that they're saying or telling me about what they got going on. Eventually, all of those messages, I'm getting 20 new messages a day from 20 different people. Eventually, they all start to blend into each other. If you want to separate yourself and stand out from all those people messaging me or whomever out there is going through the same thing, how about you get on the phone and call that person? Or how about you go find out where they are geographically, physically, and actually go meet that person, shake their hand and look them in their face and have a conversation, because that will separate you. Maybe send them some snail mail, some regular mail. That'll separate you from all the other people who are reaching out via social media. So even though, again, social media gives us all a great opportunity to stay in very easy access, quick touch with other people, since everybody's using it now, you won't stand out by using social media. You might need to take it a step further. Maybe with some people that'll be good enough, but with others, you might need to take it a step further, especially if there's someone who is being bombarded with messages via their social profiles, whatever that may be. And you may not even know if they're being bombarded or not. But let's say you reach out to someone, you believe you have some value to offer that person, but you don't hear back from them. They don't respond to anything that you say, and you don't understand why. Maybe it's just because they got so many messages, they don't have time to get back to you. So maybe you can take it to a different platform, a different medium, you can get in touch with that person. So meeting people or reconnecting with people that you've already met, providing value to them. What can you do to help another person get through or deal with whatever they're doing right now? Again, this is why you got to keep tabs on people, find out what they have going on. So when you know what they've got going on, you know immediately whether you have something or are doing something that can help that person out. And when you share what you have going on, hopefully, if you put enough good karmic energy out there, people will be willing to reach out to you and help you do what you're doing. So these are things that, again, this needs to be an ongoing thing. This is not a one-time thing, what I'm talking about here, just in case anyone didn't catch that. Reinvesting in your business is not something that you do one time. This is a constant thing that you have to be doing over and over again, just like someone who's in good shape has to consistently work out. You don't just work out until you lose the 30 pounds and then never work out again. You got to keep working out to keep that weight off and keep that great shape that you've gotten into. and staying connected with people. Even if you don't have something new going on, even if you don't have some way that you could help another person, which you never actually really know because you don't know what's going on in another person's mind, despite what they may post on their social accounts or what they tell the public. Understand that if you just stay connected with people, you never know when that person might say, you know what, I'm doing this right here, or I know someone who has this thing going on, and you would be the perfect person to help them, but you wouldn't know that through looking at that person's profile because not their life, it's their friend. They know somebody who has a need, and you could fulfill it, and because you put yourself top of mind to that person, the connector individual, they can connect you to that other person that you don't even know, and now that could create a whole new situation for everybody. It's a win-win for everybody involved, or win-win-win, because it's three people there that are involved. This is another reason why you need to stay connected with people. Understand something about business, ladies and gentlemen. You can and will achieve a whole lot more via relationships than you could ever do by your own skills and hard work and, blood, sweat, and tears and elbow grease. Let me say that one more time for those of you who didn't catch it, who weren't listening. You can achieve and you will achieve a whole lot more in your life via relationships than you will ever achieve via your own skills, hard work, and blood, sweat, and tears. When people succeed in life, they tend to, because this is our culture, we tend to promote the heroes, right? We talk about how hard we work. We talk about how we worked on our games and how we put all this effort in, and we didn't listen to the people who told us to stop trying. We always believed in ourselves. We didn't let anybody tell us no. And usually when people are successful, especially when someone becomes very successful, publicly noted level of success, they will acknowledge the people who have helped them along the way and the relationships they've had along the way. But for the most part, we tend to lionize the hard work and the effort and how much of a hero any one individual person is. But I want you to understand, you've heard the cliche that nobody gets there alone. It's absolutely true. And the other thing is, people achieve a whole lot more through their relationships than they did just through their efforts. That is not to say that a person did not give effort. Doesn't say a person didn't work on their game or that they didn't push hard and believe in themselves and do all the motivational cliche stuff that I don't need to repeat here because you've heard it plenty of times. You're probably thinking it right now. Yes, they did all those things. When that was combined with the right relationships, that's when the magic happens. If you listen to this show often enough, and you probably heard me say this many times, that it's not the cliche things that you've heard about people reaching success, such as working hard, believing in yourself, being disciplined, being confident, being mentally tough, taking personal initiative. Yes, all of those things do matter when it comes to creating success. And all of those things on their own in a vacuum can get you to a certain point in a career, a business, a life. But understand, it's when they get combined with knowing the right person, being in the right place at the right time, that's when the magic starts to happen. You do not create magic just by working hard alone and knowing nobody and nobody knowing you. All right, that will not create magic. It'll create a very tired individual because you're working really hard and doing all this work. And you may even achieve to a certain level, but there's a ceiling on how high you can go with just work alone, with just effort alone, just discipline alone, just confidence alone. Because all of those things, again, when the right person sees you, comes across you, hears you, reads you, watches you, meets you, whatever it happens to be, receives value from you, that's when the floodgates start to open. And I can speak from personal experience. That's exactly how things have happened for me. Yes, I did all of those things I just described. I've done them all. I continue to do them all. But it's when that work, that effort gets mixed in with the right people in the right places at the right times, that's when the great things start to happen. And you can look at your own life. I don't even have to know you or know your whole life story. And I know that that's absolutely true. Yes, I'm sure you work hard and you're disciplined and you do all the stuff that you're supposed to do. But it's when the right person sees your hard work. The right person sees how diligent you are. The right person notices the effort that you're putting in and the way that you're getting things done on a consistent basis. That's when the breakthroughs have occurred for you. Is how they occur for everybody else also. So how do you invest in relationships? Where do you begin with this? First step I could tell you to do, first of all, you could just talk to the people who you already know. People who you already have a relationship with, you haven't talked to them in years, reach out to them, call them, text them, Facebook message them, whatever you got to do, get in touch with them, get them to respond. All right, so if you send them a message they don't write back, then you didn't get in touch. All right, get them to respond, let them know what you got going on, see what they have going on. Just ask them, hey, how can I provide value to you? How can I help you out? What can I do for you that, what are you working on right now? Well, let's meet up, let's have lunch. Whatever it's going to be, get some face time, so to speak, with the people who you already know. Especially, you should prioritize the people who you know are those who are actually doing things, all right? Not somebody who's sitting around doing nothing. Identify the people who actually are out there doing stuff in life, and make sure you stay in touch with those individuals, because those are the people who are going somewhere. They might not be there right yet, but if you stick with them now, when they get there, they're going to remember you as a person who stayed in touch. Identify people who are doing things, and then go to wherever they are. Whether that means you need to call them, it means you need to try to get on their podcast, whether it means you need to go to their neighborhood. If they go to a certain event, you need to show up to that event. Wherever you got to do, whatever you got to do, wherever you got to go to get in touch with those people, get in touch with them. If there's an event, if you need to send them an email, if you need to reach out directly, create things of value. And value is relative. Create things of value for other people. Share them with those who can benefit from it. Therefore, here's an example. If you have a great message, a really great message about whatever it is your expertise area is, and you know someone who has an audience of people who could benefit from that message, maybe that person, the audience owner, couldn't benefit maybe so much from it, but their audience could benefit from it. You need to make a relationship with the audience owner so that you can use them as the middleman or middlewoman to let you talk to their audience. So whether that means appearing on their YouTube show, going on their TV or radio show, or their podcast, or guest blogging on their website. And so you use that person as a middleman, but you're not using them in a negative way. They're using you because they need content for their audience. And they look good because they brought a great person like you to the audience, and you benefit because you're providing value to that owner and you're providing value to everybody in that audience. So this is just, sometimes it got to be a two-step process. It may not be you be able to get directly to the person who needs it, but to the person who knows the person who needs it. This is another way that you can benefit. So creating things of value, sharing them with those who can benefit from it. It is your job to figure out, to decipher, and then show a person how this would work for them. How would this be a benefit to you? If you take this and this and this and take this step, this step, this step, this is the way that you can benefit from what I'm offering. And this is your job. You as the expert, you as the value provider, you need to figure out, how does what I'm offering help this person or that person or these people? And then you must also figure out, how do I communicate that? How do I articulate the value that I have and how it's going to help another person, what they're going to get out of it? These are all your job. This is all things you need to have figured out, and you can figure out along the way as you go along. So you don't have to sit and figure everything out that I've said here so far. And we're still on point number 1 here. You don't need to figure out everything I've said here so far before you actually start taking action. Start taking action and you'll see what's working, what's not working. What are people responding to? What are people ignoring? What are people excited about when they hear you say it? And what are people not responding to at all when you're saying it? It is your job to figure out what works for other people, but as you go along, you will figure these things out. So give your time and energy without expectation at times. There's another thing you need to do. Give your time and energy without expectation, because the more value you provide to other people, again, without even thinking, what am I going to get back from it? You're giving yourself a buildup of positive karma, that positive energy that will come back to you at some point. You don't have to keep score of it. Like I talked about in masterclass number 1234, relationships, stop keeping score. If you find yourself keeping score in a relationship, well, I did this and this for this person, I did this for these people over here, when are they going to give something back to me? You don't need to think that way. First of all, you don't want to carry that type of energy. And second of all, when you're thinking that way, you're going tit for tat and you're making it a transaction. And listen, people have a sixth sense for knowing when someone's just trying to transact with them versus when someone's actually just giving value with no expectation. Can you notice? You ever notice when someone was doing that with you? Well, since you can, and you have, understand that people can notice when you're doing with them too. Russell Simmons, I once heard him say, give until they can't live without you. I think he said it in one of his books. Give until they can't live without you. That means provide value to other people to such a point that you become needed by them with the value that you're providing, even though you haven't asked for anything back in exchange. But eventually you get something back in exchange, which is other people needing you, other people wanting you, and other people will be willing to give you what you want in order to keep you around because you've given so much value. Give enough and you will always have value. Let me say that again. Give enough and you will always have value. You don't even have to think about how you're going to get it back. Your value becomes the fact that everybody needs you because you've given so much value up front without expecting anything back in exchange. You'll get it back in exchange without even trying. Point number 2, today's topic is how to reinvest in your business. So the first step is relationships. The second area in which you can reinvest is information and implementation. Now, this area is the area that most people are very familiar with. We all know these areas very well. You're doing it right now. You're consuming right now. You're listening to me. Consuming something, whether it be through reading a book, watching a show, listening to some audio. This is the most familiar aspect of reinvestment, because the reason why this is so familiar with people is usually one of the first things that we're taught. Usually when you're growing up, before you even get to school, hopefully somebody starts teaching you how to read, right? How to read and write. That is how you learn to be a consumer. And you go to school for 12 years. Most of us go to school for around 12 years. Some people do a little bit more. Maybe some of you have done a little bit less. What are you doing in school? You sit there in the room all day for 8 hours a day? A full-time job of doing what? Consuming. Some teacher stands in front of the room, or multiple teachers stand in front of the room, and they talk and talk and talk, and you take notes, write it down, remember what they said, and then again, months later, they give you a test, and you got to prove that you remember everything that got said. Consuming is the most basic way, the way that we've all been socially trained to invest in ourselves, even though it's not usually called investing in yourself back then. This is exactly what you're doing. Everyone's familiar with consuming. Reading, watching, listening, very familiar. And the thing is, as we become adults and we have the option of doing all of these other ways, I don't think many of you, when you were kids, I don't think many of you had parents or even teachers who would sit and lecture you about investing in relationships, meeting the right people, knowing the right people, finding where they are, giving them value, not expecting anything back in exchange. I never had anybody explain that to me, but I understand the value of it now, which is why I'm giving back and explaining it to you. But the reason why consuming is so popular is because it's passive. This is the reason why so many people are comfortable with this second area of reinvestment, of gathering information and hopefully implementing it, which we'll talk about in a moment. It's passive to consume information, meaning I don't have to meet you. I don't have to shake your hand to consume anything that you share. I don't have to go anywhere that makes me uncomfortable. I don't have to go meet any new person. I don't have to go pitch myself. I don't have to go into a big conference room where there's a bunch of people who know each other and I don't know anybody and feel awkward. You don't have to feel awkward, but a lot of people do feel awkward, so they get to avoid that. See, the relationship part, you got to do all these things. You got to go meet people. You got to go talk to somebody. You got to get on the phone and have a conversation. You got to pitch yourself to a person who's never heard of you before. That's not so easy to do for a lot of people. A lot of people don't have very strong people skills. But gathering information, go reading a book, reading a blog post, watching a video, who can't do that? As long as you can understand language and you can read, you can consume information all day. And that's what most people do. This is how most people become pigs. Like I talked about in my book, Work on Your Game. A pig is a professional information gatherer. You know any professional information gatherers? I talked about pigs in masterclass number 208. Do not become a pig. A professional information gatherer is one of the bad mistakes that good people make in life. And that's the 11th chapter of my book, Work on Your Game, where I talked about that. Do not make that error of becoming a professional when it comes to consuming stuff, but then you never actually do anything with the things that you're taking in. It's a passive activity to consume information. There's nothing uncomfortable about it, such as talking to people or spending money. A lot of people are uncomfortable about spending money. We'll talk about that in a moment. And that's why it's so popular. And because we've been trained to do it our whole lives. All right, so that's why it's so popular to consume. Doesn't mean it's not useful. Let me be clear. Going to school was useful. You learned probably a lot of your vocabulary. You learned how to count. You learned how to read and write. Well, maybe you already knew how, but you learned more about reading and writing in school. You met some people. Maybe some of them are still your friends in school. You learn how to respect authority. You learn how to sit down and shut up, which is a valuable skill to have. Doesn't mean you got to do it your whole life, but it's a valuable skill to have. You learned all these things in school. So I'm not telling you that it's bad to be a consumer, but what I'm telling you, that you got to remember the second part of consuming. We call that implementation. Now, we talked a couple days ago about how you went to school for however many years, yet you are probably unqualified to teach a class on any of the things that you learned in school, such as calculus or physics or music or gym or health or world history. You took classes on this stuff for years in school, yet you can't teach it to anybody. That's because school teaches you to consume, but it doesn't teach you to implement. What does implement mean? It means take the things that you know and actually put them into live action and get a result. School teaches you to consume and regurgitate. Regurgitate means just prove to me that you remember what I said. All right, there's no value in that unless you're trying to get a certain grade in school. That's the only value of it if you consider that value. And that is value on some levels. Implementation is when you take the things that you know and you actually put them into live action and you get a real result, a tangible result that hopefully makes some impact on you or on somebody. Because if it's not making an impact on anybody, then there's no value that you're going to get in exchange for it. So implementation is the second part of consuming that you do not learn in school. It is not encouraged in school, at least in schools that I went to. Just taking in information will not help you if you don't put it to work and get a result from it. And every piece of information you take in, understand this. When you take in information, you have now a responsibility to implement it and see how it works for you or how it does not work for you. And here's the other side of it. If you are consuming information, before you begin consuming it, ask yourself a question, at least to the best of your judgment. How does consuming this information, and once I implement this information that I consume, how does implementing this information that I'm about to consume, how is this going to help me? How is this going to move me forward? Who is this going to provide value to? What is this going to do for me in my life or anybody else in my life? How is this providing value in any way, shape, or form? If you can't answer that question, if you don't have a reasonable hypothesis for why consuming a certain information is going to help you in any way, then what's the purpose of you even consuming it? Are you just wasting time? And listen, we all waste time at some points. I mean, I know some of y'all out there watching Love and Hip Hop and Real Housewives. Watching that's not going to help you implement or change anything for the most part. Probably not anything positive. But when you are implementing on a business level, ask yourself, consuming on a business level, ask yourself, when I implement what I'm about to learn, what is that going to do for me? If you can't answer, maybe you are consuming the wrong things. And if you can cut down on more of that, you'll find that you have a whole lot more time than you thought you did. Point number 3. Today's topic is how to reinvest in your business. Reach and exposure is the third area that I'm sharing with you here today about reinvesting in your business. What does reach and exposure mean? Part of it is done via relationships, like reaching out to other people, exposing yourself and your value, your brand, or whatever you're offering to other people. So part of it is done through relationships, but I'm also talking about your ability to sell yourself, advertising yourself, finding out what your target audience wants and creating it. That's part of reach and exposure. Reach is seeing what's going on outside of your cocoon, finding out what's going on there, and then finding where you can create value for those people or not, or finding somewhere else where you can create value, or knowing what your value is and seeing, all right, where's the place where this would actually be a value for other people. And I want you to understand that reach and exposure, ladies and gentlemen, is work. It requires effort to do reach and exposure because you got to find out what's going on. That's what reach and exposure is. And you got to put yourself out there, reach and exposure. A lot of people are apprehensive about putting themselves out there. Maybe a little bit nervous about putting yourself out there. Maybe you're not sure how anybody's going to respond, if at all, when you put yourself out there, when you expose yourself to the world. And this is why it's work, because it's not always so comfortable. It's not always so easy, and it may not always even produce a result. Actually, I guarantee it will not always produce a result. And although it's a very simple concept, reach and exposure, it is not always very easy for people. A lot of people don't like spending money on their business. Reinvesting, usually when people hear invest, they think of money, but I've already told you here today 3 ways that you can reinvest in your business that don't actually cost you money. It may cost you money indirectly, but they don't necessarily cost you money. But when we talk about advertising, any of you who's spending money on advertising, a lot of people don't want to do that, not because they don't want more people to know about them, not because they don't want more reach and exposures, because some people have a very negative mindset just around money, period. So anything that involves spending money, they automatically become apprehensive because you probably have some bad mindsets about money that you were taught by some other people without you even knowing what was going on. But exposing yourself. Actually, before I get to exposing yourself, when it comes to spending money on your business, I've talked about this before, but this is the law of karma. Everybody's familiar with the law of karma, right? If you're not willing to spend money on yourself or on your business or on bettering your offering, and you as an individual person, you are the main offering of your business. If you're not willing to invest money into yourself, your customers will not be willing to invest money into you. So if you've been finding that you've had a hard time selling your products or services or getting your goods into the hands of other people, it might be because of the fact that you've had a hard time letting money go out of your hands. You're going to have a hard time getting anyone else to let money go out of their hands, at least when it comes to sending it back to you. And when you think of this word exposure, Okay? In life, if you want more people to know you, you want to reinvest in yourself, reinvest in your business, you have to expose yourself. Not in a negative way. You might consider it negative, but it's neutral. Sharing your truth. What is your truth? Who are you as a person? Taking some chances when it comes to putting yourself out there. Because as I said, sometimes you're going to put yourself out there and nobody's going to care. Sometimes you'll put yourself out there and people will respond, but they'll respond in a negative way, or at least in the way that you take is negative. Being real about who you are at the risk of someone disagreeing with you or being turned off by the fact that you're being real about who you are. Now, I talked about this in masterclass number 1364. The topic was rejection marketing. Not attraction marketing, trying to make everybody like you, but rejection marketing. Letting some people know that, you know what, I don't want you here. There's nothing wrong with rejection marketing, as most people are afraid to do it. Reach, this other word that I used. You have to go further than what you're used to doing to reach, right? Wherever you are right now, if you were to reach your arm out as far as you could, you're going to be extending yourself further than where you normally are. If you had to reach across the room to get to something, or maybe something's just out of your arm's length grasp, you got to lean over so you can get over to that thing, right? That's what reach means. Reach means going outside of your normal space, the normal space that your body takes up when you're just standing upright without your arms out stretched out, and then see what you can get to out there. That's what reaching is about, extending yourself in order to get to something. Are you willing to extend yourself? How often do you extend yourself? And if you've extended yourself before and it didn't work, are you willing to do it again? Understand that not every reach is going to result in a positive outcome. If any of you plays basketball, you know in basketball on defense, the coaches will tell you, don't reach. Don't reach for the ball. You got to move your feet and stay in front of the guy who has the ball. If you're reaching for the ball, you're playing lazy defense. But in the business world, reaching is a good thing to do. All right, and sometimes we use reaching in a sort of like a colloquialism to mean somebody's trying too hard to get certain attention and it's not quite working. I don't mean that kind of reaching. And people usually call it that, but the person who's doing it might not think that they're reaching. But you understand what I'm saying. Hopefully you do. If you don't, listen to it again and keep rewinding it until you get it. When's the last time you reached in your business? I want you to think about that, and you should come up with an answer. When's the last time you reached in your business? Reached out to someone who you think may be a little bit above your level. Reached out to sell a product or a service. Reached out in terms of putting yourself out there to your audience in a way that maybe you felt a little bit vulnerable or felt a little bit, maybe people might not feel what you were saying. When's the last time you did that? Sometimes you'll be ignored. Sometimes you'll be turned away. Sometimes you'll feel like you wasted your time. But this is all part of the game. And this is a game. Life is a game. Business is a game. And if you want to get better in your business, as we recap today's topic, you must reinvest in that business. Not just invest one time, but reinvest. Now, I'm going to refer you to masterclass number 609, the 5 forms of investment. If you have not heard that masterclass, if you cannot tell me the 5 forms of investment off the top of your head and explain them to me, then you need to listen to that masterclass again. Key area of importance here, we're talking reinvesting in your business whenever you want to grow and evolve and not just tread water. Number 1, relationships. Meeting new people, providing them value, staying connected to them. In business, you can achieve a lot via relationships, a lot more than you would ever achieve on your own through your own skills and hard work and blood, sweat, and tears. Identify where people are, go there. Events, send them emails, reach out to them on social media, create things of value, and share them with those who can benefit from it. It is your job to figure out how it would help them and then to show them how it would help them. Give your time and energy without expectation, as I talked about in Masterclass 1234, which is stop keeping score. Russell Simmons said, give until they can't live without you. Point number 2, information and implementation. We are all familiar with consuming information. We were taught that as kids. We were taught it through 12 years of schooling. Just sit and consume information. And a lot of people like doing this because it's passive. You don't have to talk to anybody necessarily. You don't have to do anything that would probably make you uncomfortable. You can just sit and consume. But don't forget about the second part of it, which is implementation, meaning you're taking in information, then doing something with that information and trying to produce a result. If you don't know how a piece of information is going to help you implement and produce any kind of result, then you're probably wasting your time consuming that information. But there are times you will take in information where at first you have no idea how that's going to help you, but on the back end you figure out how it could. But if you have the right relationships, see how these connect. You can ask someone, hey, if I take in this information, do you know a way I can implement this into what I'm doing? If you have a coach or a consultant that you're working with, or a mentor, or people who are just smarter than you that you have relationships with, they can answer that question for you. But if you're just flying on your own, you may end up wasting a lot of time consuming things that have no useful implementation for you based on your personal situation. Doesn't mean it's not useful to consume information, but again, anytime that you're doing it, you got to know where you're implementing it. Point number 3, reach and exposure. Some of this is done via relationships, but also via selling yourself, putting yourself out there, advertising, which will cost you money, finding out who your target audience is or what they want and creating it and then sharing it with them. And sometimes they'll accept it and sometimes they'll ignore it. This is work. And although it's a very simple concept, it's not always easy because a lot of people have some negative energies when it comes to spending money on their business, which will cause your customers to not spend money on you. And a lot of people are uncomfortable when it comes to putting themselves out there in front of other people, because one of the biggest fears human beings have is fears of the social rejection, fear of criticism. And people won't put themselves out. They won't expose themselves, share who they really are, share their truths, or take any kind of chances when it comes to other people because they're afraid of that criticism. Being who you are is a risk because somebody may disagree with you or be turned off by you. But remember what I talked about in 1364, Masterclass 1364, rejection marketing. All right, you don't want everybody to agree with you. You don't want everybody to say that what you're doing is good, because if you're doing that, you're probably just saying something that already exists. You're a commodity and nobody cares about you. Your energy's weak. Extending yourself to get into something is how we define reaching. You will have to reach out to people, reach out to your audience. When's the last time you reached out at all? When's the last time you made a reach in your business? You did something that you weren't sure how it was going to turn out, but you did it anyway. And maybe it worked, maybe it didn't. But if you're not reaching at all, then you're not going to expand at all. You can't get outside of your comfort zone if you don't reach outside of that zone. There are times where you'll be ignored, turned away, feel like you're wasting your time. All of it's part of the game. Accept it and enjoy it and work on your game. Dre all day.